Welcome everyone to another episode of Old Roommates. Today on the show, we revisit Newhart from 1982. So, grab your friend Darryl and your other friend Darryl, and the three of you sit down and listen to this new episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. This is Brian.
And this is Christina.
And today we are revisiting Newhart, the classic TV show that ran from 1982 to 1990, starring Bob Newhart, of course, and Mary Frann, and a whole cast of characters. We begin, as we always do, by talking about then. Christina, please tell us about your relationship with the show Newhart.
Okay, so I will start by saying I'm a huge Bob Newhart fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I loved his original sitcom, The Bob Newhart
Which
Show.
I never ever watched.
Oh, you
never
would.
seen it.
I think you would love that show. Oh my gosh! So I have not
All right.
seen it in a long time, so
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to stand up. It's just a classic sitcom. It's great characters. I think you'd definitely enjoy it.
Yeah.
So remember, I suggested Maude to you too that you hadn't seen.
That's right.
And you loved that. So anyway, so I'm a big fan of Bob Newhart. I loved that sitcom, and I loved this sitcom, Newhart.
Mm-hmm.
I was not an avid watcher. I didn't sit down every night to watch every episode.
Yeah.
But I know I watched at least probably the majority of the episodes, at least from the first few seasons.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed him again, always. I enjoyed Mary Frann. She's always pleasant. And I especially liked Julia Duffy. Who played Stephanie. And I also loved Tom Poston, who played George.
Yeah.
So really great characters. I really thought it was a funny show. I enjoyed watching it. I don't think I watched the last season.
Okay.
But I did know, and we'll have to talk about this when we get to it, but I remembered hearing about the last episode.
Yeah.
And being very disappointed that I didn't see the last episode. Right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was me. What about you, Brian? What's your history with Bob Newhart?
So it's really funny.
Sorry, Newhart.
Yep. So I used to love the show.
Mm-hmm.
And, but it's one of those things where I remember the first season being like, okay. And then it sort of figured itself out. And we talked this a lot with sitcoms like that. Sometimes the first season's the worst season, and they get to find their footing and all that. But like you, I loved Julia Duffy. And I remember thinking like when Will and Grace, when I was watching Will and Grace, I was like, oh my God, I feel like Karen was sort of like the Julia Duffy, the Stephanie of that, you know? And I just remember
Very similar
Stephanie,
characters.
I remember Stephanie being so sassy and like so funny. And then Bob Newhart, his timing is just impeccable.
He's an amazing
He's hilarious
actor.
without even trying.
That is his charm, I think.
Yeah.
He is so
funny.
Like,
so he can
his
do so much with an eyebrow, with like a facial expression, with like a movement of his mouth. Like, I mean, he has that thing, that funny thing. But yeah, not crazy with the first couple seasons, but then when they shook up the cast a bit, I was really into it, and I did watch it all the time. I agree with you. I think because this ended in 90, I was a senior in high school, so I was probably not rushing home to watch Newhart.
Right.
And I like you, I also missed the last episode. I'd never seen it before. And so how we decided what episodes to revisit, because we're not going to obviously watch 8 years of a show, we went to the internet and we looked up the fan favorites.
Yes.
And that's how we usually do it. Because if we're getting the best of the best from the fans, then we're getting a good
overview
a good mix of episodes. And so that's what we did. And weirdly enough, none are from season 3, right?
Right.
So, but we'll get to that when we get there. But we can dive into now. So, Christina, when did you do your big 8-episode rewatch?
Yes. So we did 8 episodes. I watched them here and there. I started a couple weeks ago. Watched a couple episodes here, a couple episodes there, and I will say I rented them from my library. they really aren't anywhere to be found unless you go to YouTube. Or wait, you on Prime?
No, Prime.
Sorry, I don't
they're
have
on
Prime.
Prime, yeah.
So they're on Prime. Did you have to pay for them or are they free?
Nope, I did not have to pay for them.
Okay, that's good. Sometimes Prime, it's like, still you have to pay a certain amount.
Can I say something really quick, though?
Yes,
if anyone
course.
does want to watch them on Prime, Season 1 is crystal clear. It's so weird. Season 2, the quality on Prime is terrible.
Interesting.
It's very strange.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
We'll get into that too because I, like I said, rented them from the library.
Okay.
I had discs
Yep.
that I'm like watching. The first thing I noticed in that pilot episode, the lighting. You said the first episode on Prime was crystal clear.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So both episodes, there was 2 episodes we watched from episode 1, right?
Yeah.
The lighting was so strange. It was so dark. It looked like someone was standing in front of these people with flashlights. It looked like a stage.
Very much so.
And it looked like there were just random spotlights placed along the edge of the stage.
Oh, interesting.
It was so weird and distracting. The lighting was weird, and it made dark shadows on faces behind them.
Well, wait, though. The first episode, though, this is a house that has not been lived in.
Correct.
So, do you think that was part of the
So I
lighting
was hoping
concept?
that was the case, but it also happened. It happened actually throughout
Season 1?
Season 2.
Season 2. That is wild. So on Prime...
Yeah.
So
I said on Season 2, Episode 22, the lighting is better, thank God. But
that is so funny.
And we can talk about it.
We've never talked about the production values of a show
and
before.
It was so bizarre. And I was hoping that was the case with the first episode. I'm like, okay, they're moving in. Maybe it's supposed to look like this. But it was like this throughout. And I actually said, and we'll talk about Season 2, Episode 22 in a second. But I said, lighting is better, thank God. But the shadows are back in the locker room. So I don't know if it was because I was just ultra aware of it because it was so obvious in that first season, first episode, but it was bad throughout both of those seasons. So that was the first thing.
Interesting.
Yes. I said it was a very strange set. Bob looks good. He looked young. I meant to ask how old he was.
I didn't do any
I
real
wish
research.
I had done. I might do that now just to see. What about you? What were your first impressions? When did you watch it?
So, I watched this. So, really funny, actually. We had talked about revisiting Newhart a while back.
Yes.
And Carl had never seen it. And I said, oh, you know what? So one of my husband's dreams, one of his dreams is to run, is to run a bed and breakfast.
He'd be so good at it.
Carl is amazing. And he is so hospitable, and he would run an amazing bed and breakfast, which is probably why I don't want him to do it, because everything would be painstakingly perfect and he'd probably exhaust himself.
Yes.
So, but he would have an amazing bed and breakfast. And so I was like, this is kind of perfect. Christina wanted to rewatch this. And we did. We watched the first few episodes, like maybe a few months ago. And so I was familiar with the first episode already, but I rewatched it again for this episode. And I forgot that the genesis was that they had come from Manhattan.
Yes, I did too.
The biggest thing was... oh, wow, Joanna, they actually gave Joanna some funny lines to say. And that was kind of the only, I feel like they changed her character. She almost quickly became a reaction to Bob. Yes. And she kind of lost her own personality as the seasons went on. And I was like, oh, that's too bad. Because at one point she says, she's like, I'm on the board for 6 different diseases. Like, that's funny.
Right.
But it quickly became like, oh no, she's just there to react to Bob and his antics and his funny little quirky stuff. And yes, every sitcom, you need that straight man. You need that straight person, like Mary Richards. Right. You have to have that person that reacts to all the crazy characters. Otherwise, because everyone can't be crazy. But I did notice that they at least tried to give Joanna, played by Mary Frann, who is gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Oh my
that
God,
hair.
Gorgeous.
Oh my
beautiful.
Goodness.
And a really nice actress. That was what was missing. I think the biggest thing from episode to episode was like, oh wow, she's just doesn't even have much of a personality anymore.
She's just...
she's the straight person.
She's background.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, she's certainly more than that. I think it's just that it's like, really, not going to give her one funny thing to say? Kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this. My next note is, so, he writes how-to books. And she goes along with it, ultimately because he really wants to.
Right.
Which feels kind of true. I mean, like,
it didn't seem like money was an object either. Right. Like, he had money, and it was just sort of like something he wanted to do.
What I did appreciate was that, like, he does say, is like, listen, even if I never sold another book again, we'd have enough money for this place, and we'd have enough money to get by. And I was like, damn, he does real well. He writes how-to books, okay? But what's funny is, like, they quickly start running out of money. And I was like, thank God.
Yeah, I know,
thank God that, like, because at least it makes them a bit relatable, you know? But I don't want to talk too much, but what I laughed out loud is that they have their first guests right away. And they're trying to, and George, Tom Poston's character, is trying to fix a window. Now there's a big-ass hole in the room. You don't see any of it. It's all in your mind.
Right.
That the first customers are in this room. And they keep calling the front desk. And Dick, played by Bob Newhart, is super nice. He's like, no, you're not being a bother at all. Of course. I mean, you have a hole. It's a hole. Oh, okay. All right, great, yeah. And he's just so good at that stuff.
He's so good.
Then they call back again. And he's like, oh, okay, you need blankets because it's cold because of the hole. Okay, yeah, no trouble at all. Of course, no, you're not a pest. They call back again. And then they use something else. And he's like, no, of course, that's what we're here for. You're not a pest at all. And he
takes it. Yeah, he said something. He takes the phone off the. I wrote down, this was so good. So good. It reminded me of a sketch.
Yes.
The comedy sketch show where you could see him on stage with just a phone.
Yeah.
Nobody else. And just having this conversation and being fucking hilarious. Yeah. And the fact that he takes it off the hook after the third time, so subtle. He just did it. And this is the audience, charm and the beauty of Bob Newhart. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I looked it up. He was, first of all, can you guess how old he is right now? He's still alive.
He's going to be in his 90s. 93?
He's 94. You were way off.
But poor Mary Frann, she passed away in her 50s.
I just said, I just realized that too. Yeah. So he was 53 when he did this show. He does not look 53 in the show. I think he looks a lot younger than that.
You know what? I think I agree with you.
Yeah. I think he looks a lot younger. I thought I would have guessed in his 30s, like late 30s.
Yeah, I don't know. Because it's always that weird thing anyway with like the 80s and,
Yep. Mary Frann was 39 when she played his wife.
Oh, wow. I would have guessed younger for her. Yeah. I would have guessed much younger for her.
Yep. She, unfortunately, she died in 1998. She was only 55 years old.
Oh.
Yeah, super sad. But Bob Newhart is alive and kicking.
Wow.
At 94.
Mary Frann died in her sleep.
Yes.
She had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Very sad.
Very sad.
Okay, so let's see. Then, yes, that's great. And then my next note is, so I have to kind of talk a little bit about other episodes as I say this sentence.
Yes, of course, sure.
Kirk is introduced. Kirk's thing is he's a compulsive liar.
Yes.
As someone middle-aged, I'm like, wow, what a shitty idea for a character. That you can't trust anything this character says. Mm-hmm. That's not a great basis for a character. Especially not a new character you know is going to be part of the show.
Right.
I thought it was a really bad idea. And yet, I will say, Kirk grew on me. I thought he was so effing funny.
Yes.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this. He became so likable.
Uh-huh.
So likable. And he wasn't so much a liar. He was just a smart ass. Like, right. I wish they didn't do the liar thing. I wish they just said he has some sort of interpersonal challenges where he can't control his mouth. Listen, those characters exist in every sitcom. You have Sophia Petrillo is one of them, So it's like, there's, it's like say Ted Knight, for example, or Ted Baxter. It's all those characters that are like, they're so rude, but it's just them.
It's just
they're not trying to be. They're just rude. And he grew on me. I was like, wow, because when I was a kid, I didn't like him at all.
So I didn't really even remember him until he showed up. And I was like, oh, he's probably not on this very long because I don't really remember him. And yeah, I could. In the first episode, he is pretty obnoxious.
He never shuts up.
Right? So I'm like, oh, yeah, they probably got rid of him pretty early. This is part of the rewrite and all this. It's like, I was fuzzy in terms of who was introduced when.
Yeah.
There was a different maid.
Yep.
Right? It was Joanne. Was it Joanne?
No, Joanna is the wife.
Oh, yeah. Joanna's the wife.
Leslie.
Leslie is the maid.
Yeah.
And she left for some reason. I forget why. You probably have that in your notes somewhere. She left during the second season.
You know what the actress is from? She's from Seekonk.
So funny.
Yeah.
That's right near us.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was definitely a different kind of cast.
Yeah.
And I thought for sure he would have been gone sooner rather than later,
yeah.
just because I didn't have much of a recollection of him.
Yes, same.
And I'm like, okay, the liar. I did think it was a little bit funny because he's like, yeah, but I'm working on it. A couple of those lines were kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's same with you. He totally grew on me.
Yeah.
To the point where when he wasn't around, I missed him.
Same.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish they had kept him.
Because he was really, ultimately, very smart.
Yes.
Often, through his nastiness, he was really the voice of reason.
Yes.
And more so than Joanna. Like, that actually troubled me, because we kind of lost Joanna's personality, and they started giving funnier things for the surrounding character. And I don't know why they made that decision. Why can't a wife in a sitcom be funny?
Yeah, I thought it was
I don't like how
too.
those shows do that. But he was almost refreshing, because it was like, at least he got the story moving.
He was a great catalyst for Bob Newhart.
Yes, good energy. Because where Bob is dry,
yes.
this guy is messy and loud and just rude.
Right, and he just says
whatever is on
Bob
his,
is so subtle with everything, and oh God, what was his name?
Kirk.
He was so out there. Like, he would just say exactly what was on his mind. And I felt like, at least the episodes that we watched with him in it, they didn't really harp on the
lying thing.
The lying thing.
No.
It was only in the first episode that they even talked about
I like that they didn't focus on that.
So so they could have totally gotten rid of that and kept the character as the busybody kind of next door neighbor who's going to come in and shake things up.
And just honestly judge every move Bob makes. I mean, like, it's really funny. He's
I thought it was really
perfect
funny.
foil for him, because you have George, who's like, do, 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 do. Like, he doesn't know any better. But Kirk knows better and gives Bob a hard time.
Yes.
George doesn't know any better and gives Bob a hard time.
And the three of them together were
very
great.
Funny.
It was great.
I also liked Leslie.
Yes,
I really
liked
did.
Her too.
Because you understood, she doesn't need a job. Her parents are loaded.
Mm-hmm.
She just wants to see how normal people live. How normals,
so
or maybe she even said normals, but like how ordinary folks live. And she doesn't need the money.
And she was smart.
Very smart, and she knew Kirk. She had Kirk's number right away.
Yes,
and I thought she was really a nice, refreshing person. That she was so game for things because it was part of her experiment. You know, like there was more reason for her to be the way she was, and I thought it was so funny when Kirk is hitting on her and asking her out, and he's like, "Why can't you go out tonight?" And this is episode 1. She says, "Well," and she has this. We talked about Pete's Dragon recently and Paul and his awful story.
Oh,
of amnesia.
right.
She talks about her best friend who... It's an insane story of how her boyfriend died, then she went on a cruise, she met the love of her life, and then she went on this, and then she got a disease, but she beat the disease, and now she finally is getting married after all this time because she's been so sick, and she's finally healed, and she's getting married this weekend.
And she's the maid of honor.
And he goes, "Any chance you can get out of it?" I laughed out loud. And that's the thing. It's like, lose the lying thing. He's just a wise ass, like smart ass, funny,
Jonah's
rude,
just a self-absorbed,
selfish character, and so damn funny.
Right.
I really laughed a lot.
Now I'm wondering, because Stephanie, who is introduced in season 2,
they have the same last name.
Right, they're cousins. She's her cousin.
Okay, all right.
We didn't see that episode where she's introduced, but she's her cousin. But I wonder. So Kirk left, and then Stephanie was introduced in season 3, I believe, right? They were not in the same episodes together.
Kirk is married, and this is crazy. So I did a little jumping, because so it says episode 17, Kirk ties one on. Kirk gets married, and that's not the last episode of that season, but what happens is season 3 kicks off, and Bob is told that Kirk and his wife moved away.
Okay. And then Stephanie is introduced when?
I don't know.
So I think I feel like, I don't know if there's any episodes together.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is, because Stephanie is so self-absorbed, maybe they felt like Kirk being so self-absorbed was just too much.
Yeah.
So maybe they just said, okay, we'll get rid of Leslie and Kirk.
Yeah. And
then just have Stephanie be kind of both of those things.
And I want to be clear, Kirk doesn't marry Leslie.
No, she doesn't. He doesn't. He marries. Okay, so let's. All right, we're gonna have. I don't know if we want to just continue our conversation the way we're doing it, or if we want to go in order. But yeah, we'll talk about that episode when we talk about it. So, was there anything else? The one thing was kind of funny. Give me your John Hancock. Right under John Hancock.
Yeah, that's funny. But to me, the funniest thing is when Dick, Bob Newhart, is reading the letter. And it's like, the kindness she showed me, in fact, our entire platoon. And he finds out that the Stratford Inn used to be basically a whorehouse.
Yes.
Yeah. Or a cat house. He says a cat house.
They call it a cat house.
Cat house, yeah. And then he has to give this presentation to the Daughters of the War of Independence. And the woman, like the leader of the group, he's trying to gloss over stuff, and she wants him to dig in. Like, no, educate us, tell us. And she's not taking no for an answer. So finally he says, like, I don't know so much if you guys are the daughters, if you're all the daughters of the War of Independence, as much as you are the daughters of a 3-day pass. But his comedic timing, he can say anything. And
it'll make
funny.
You laugh.
And it's the most horrific thing, because to be fair, I don't think that character would have said a 3-day pass to those women. I just don't think in any world he would have done that. But it is a funny line, and it's delivered funny, so you kind of go along with it.
Yes. Yeah, he's so good. He is just so good. And he turns it all around, and the women are happy.
The women, empowered by it.
Empowered,
Yeah. And that was great. And for 82, for women to be like, they were women of the moment and women of the evening, and they took their sexuality and femininity in hand and helped a lot of people. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then there was, before even the speech, they're talking about, they all seem to be having a good time. And he's like, I'll put a stop to that. Super fun. I don't have any other notes for episode 1.
No.
So we moved on to episode 2, another fan favorite. Yeah. Mrs. Newton's body lies in a molding in the grove. That's the name of the episode.
Yeah, it's a long name.
It's a long name. So basically they find out that a woman has been buried in the basement of the Stratford Inn. So this is when I noticed like that long opening of the song.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's such an 80s thing, right?
Yeah.
Just such an 80s thing. It's basically a full-length song. It's got to be 2 minutes.
Yeah, and not a lot of info. It's just the cast name.
It's just the cast,
and then like created by whatever. But that footage, do you know this?
No.
I don't know if we talked about this in our episode way back when. That footage of them driving through in the town in the canoe, that is truly like cutting room floor from on Golden Pond.
No.
Yep.
Wow.
And it gets even funnier because in later seasons there's the mayor, and the mayor is played by the guy who gave Chelsea the boat ride.
Shut the hell up.
Yep, isn't that weird?
That is so weird.
So they needed like a Vermontian type looking thing. The exterior...
Wow, that is so funny.
The exterior of that is the Waybury Inn in Middlebury, Vermont.
Ah.
So the exterior of that is they just changed the sign, but all that other footage is from On Golden Pond.
Oh my!
So crazy,
gosh.
which we
that
revisited on this podcast.
Yeah, not too
back
long
in
ago.
December. Yeah. I have to say I love this episode.
Yeah, it's a pretty funny episode. I wrote the shadows again. The main area.
Yeah.
Is basically where it is. Like when they do.
But does that bother you? Does it
bothered me.
Really? So does it bother you that it felt so stage-like? You had a similar note. Talk about long ago about Cheers,
right?
But it seems like this bothered you, and I don't really know why.
It was the lighting.
Okay.
It wasn't so much the stage show. In fact, it kind of reminded me more of Golden Palace, to be honest.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was that. But no, it's the lighting and the shadows. It had nothing else to do with. They could have done everything else and just increased the lighting and did something about the shadows, and it would have been fine. But it was so distracting. I wish I had brought the DVDs, because it's obviously different on the DVDs than it was in Prime. They obviously like remastered it or something.
You know what I wonder? Because it was such a... It's like an idiot, but here I go. I mean, like, it's such a wide open space.
Yep.
Where it's like, there's no, say even Golden Palace or Cheers. There's like the bar with the rails up to the ceiling, so to speak. And maybe, I don't know, maybe the set was just too wide to get sufficient
that's probably
lighting.
what it was, because where would you put the lights?
Yeah.
It didn't feel like there were any overhead lights.
Yeah.
That's what it didn't feel like.
I will say in the final episode, so I did some digging in my research. Apparently, and I didn't go back to rewatch it, but in the last episode, apparently there is a noticeable, it's either a boom mic or a lighting stand.
Oh, no kidding.
In the shot for like a minute.
Oh my gosh.
And like, it was never caught. They didn't move it.
Well, they're like, whatever, it's the last episode. People will talk about it someday. Right. But yeah, no, so the shadows were still bothering me. It was a lot. It didn't
bother me. What would you say if I told you we had a body buried in the basement? I'd say ick. And Joanna says that.
Yes. Funny
and
line.
That's funny. And I'm telling you, you fast forward like a season and she doesn't say funny things anymore. And then he no wait, I ruined it. So he goes, what would you say if I told you we had a body buried in the basement? She's like, I'd say ick. And then people laugh, and he goes,
yes.
And what would you say if you weren't a college graduate? But the audience didn't laugh much. I busted out laughing. Like,
that was really funny.
He's so funny, and that's a note, and I hate to jump ahead, but I found that the first couple seasons, it got to the jokes faster.
Yep.
We're going to get to the later episodes. Mm-hmm. I didn't look up who wrote what and all that. But do you agree?
I agree. 100%.
I found it was like boom, boom, boom. And sometimes a single line is funny.
Yes.
I felt like in later episodes they were a little overwritten with the jokes. It took a couple lines to get to the joke.
I definitely felt that as well.
All right. So Sarah Newton is buried in the basement. We know exactly when she died. The 1600s.
1600s to the late 1600s.
and then, so they go to the church. I'm jumping all around. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
they go to the church, and the priest says, "Well, we can't. She's a witch."
And then Bob says,
like, "Well, isn't there a way to get her off the?"
Well, no. First, Bob he says she's a witch, and then Bob says, "Ick."
and then he's like, but isn't there a way to get her off the witch list?
But wait, and then that's true. Yeah. And then they're like, well, how'd she get on the witch list? Well, let's see here. She buried a cat at midnight, turned her kid into a badger. Bob's like, that's it? And then they said something, and he's like, well, what if she really did? She did turn a kid into a badger. Like, just so funny, so funny. And then they want to try to get her off the list.
Later on, someone says, what are you, the Addams Family? Oh. And it is really perfect, except, so Leslie is wearing her hair in pigtails.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And I just wish, though, because, like, George and Leslie are on one side, and Bob and, it's a very specific note, but Bob and Joanna are on the other side. And I wish all four of them were standing side by side, because it would have been so much funny with giant George and little, that was very funny. And then someone is rude to them, and Joanna says, someone like that should not be working for a mortuary. And Dick says, yeah, someone like that should be turned into a badger.
It's so funny. Oh my gosh. So funny.
This is monumental. I did not know that these characters were introduced in episode 2.
I never knew that. I thought it was
way later. Way later. Episode 2, we meet Larry, Darryl, and my other brother Darryl.
Yes.
Because they run a company called Anything for a Buck.
Anything for a Buck, which is just like Fiverr now.
Yes, pretty much.
It's like crazy. Yeah. It was like so ahead of their time.
Yeah. And that was so funny because he's on the phone with them. Again, just Bob Newhart on the phone. You don't hear any voices coming back.
I wish every episode had Bob on the phone.
It's beautiful because you really believe he's talking to someone. And yes, I know. But I'm telling you, more and more I feel like the things I watch, you hear the other voice.
And you don't need it.
Or you see the actually actor on a split screen or something like that. And this is just him on the phone, and
I'm
Mary
giggling just thinking about it.
But Mary Tyler Moore, which MTM Productions did Newhart.
Sure.
Mary Tyler Moore is the same thing. I remember that from our rewatch. There was a lot of phone talk, but you never heard or saw the person they were talking to.
Right.
It was always acting. And Bob Newhart is so good at that, as is Mary Tyler Moore.
Mary Tyler Moore was true,
where he's explaining what's going on, and he doesn't even want to tell them. So finally he says, when do you think you could get here? And he's like, well, what is this supposed to be? He's like, well, it's a body, whatever. And he's like, I guess today is fine. 5 minutes? Because it's like these, basically these sick, deliverance type.
So he had another phone scene, too, with someone was calling to book a room.
Oh, my God, yes. And he told
And that's another one. He's like, and he was trying not to tell them. And then he's having this nice conversation. Oh, yeah, we're just having some work done. Well, we need to just move a body out of the basement. Okay, so there's the Windshire Inn down the street. Obviously, they're saying, oh, well, forget it. Yeah. And it's just so seamless. All of it was so seamless. I did write that George is so good, and he's not too much.
No.
You could totally see that character being a little too much, but he was perfect.
Yeah.
And he was perfect for the transitions from one scene to another, and just plopping him in there. He was really good. What a great character he was.
I agree. I do think in the episode 1, it was a little much with the door.
I have that as a note, actually.
Only because it was noisy.
It was enough. It was enough.
Yeah, it was also noisy. I was like, I don't need the door stuck every time.
But yes, door sticking was getting old, is what I wrote.
Another great line. Honey, a lot of times when you do the right thing, it makes your flesh crawl.
I have that written down too. It's so funny. So it's interesting though. There is a little bit of a thing.
Oh.
Where in the last episode, the big deal was that Darryl finally spoke, or the Darryls finally spoke.
In the last episode, yeah.
In the last episode, and there's this whole thing where they don't speak a word until the last episode, but that is not true. In their first introduction, they're standing in the doorway. They find out that they're not going to move Mrs. Newton. Yeah. They're all disappointed. Bob is saying that they're going to pay him anyway or whatever. Yeah. And they're very disappointed. And he said, well, I think there's a dead badger out back. And one of the Darryl says, I'm on it. And then Larry turned around and said, wait. So there was actually one line in that first introduction. Because he said it. Here's the thing. He said it. And I was like, what? They speak? Yeah. So that was the weird part for me. I was like, wait, I thought they didn't speak. And of course, they didn't speak for the rest of the episodes. So I thought that was a really interesting kind of bit of trivia there. I
didn't catch that. You really blew it out of the water, Christina, because that's the biggest thing. Is
I know.
Historians will tell you the only time they speak is the last episode.
Well, I will be talking to those historians.
Season 1, and the next one is episode 22 of season 1. I enjoy being a guy.
Yes, this was a really funny episode for me. I thought it was really well done.
I liked it as well. My critique is in the beginning because I don't know enough about golf to get all the jokes. And there was there were even jokes about stats that you had to kind of know golf.
Right.
Because you golfed in 98. And it was you golfed at 156. And I'm like, I don't even know what these numbers are. I don't know,
Well, but you kind of got it just from his attitude.
Eventually.
That you figured it. Well, I figured it out a little sooner than, I guess. And then, because he's appalled at the high score.
Oh my God, this is a funny episode.
And then it was the best I've ever done. Yep. Again, I wrote that the lighting was better, thank God. The shadows were still back in the locker room. So they still haven't figured out the lighting as far as I was concerned. I love how enthusiastic he was. I'm like, he's so enthusiastic. He's so cute. And then the Doc Dick conversation was funny.
I wrote that down as well. Dick, but Dick, how about... Doc? I challenge, and I understand it's for a joke later on. Dick is wearing the most ridiculous bright yellow, green, blue plaid. He sticks out like a sore thumb. I thought it was very off-brand for his character.
But I also felt like that's what he felt like he should wear
in
Vermont when golfing. I think those were very typical golf pants.
Yes, I'm sure.
That's
I
what
wish there was an
it too.
acknowledgement. Because it does come around later when Kirk makes a joke, like, listen, the way he dresses reflects me. Just the way your husband dresses reflects you. I thought it was really funny when Kirk takes George out and he's wearing a yellow turtleneck with overalls. And he's like, but don't I look good, Kirk? And he's like, yeah, you look good. If you're 4,
oh my God,
audience
so
crazy.
Funny. I really liked Kirk in this,
Me too.
especially like this episode was really good. A good Kirk episode. He and George together, in particular, I thought were really good together.
I love that. So basically, the gist is that these guys are really bad at golf.
Yes,
and they're even worse at poker. And Dick leaves that one day with $703, and he feels stricken with guilt. And
he doesn't like to gamble in the first place. He had no idea that there were any kind of gambling. And then, so he reluctantly...
And he ends up winning everything. He won the golf game. He won the card game. And he's like, Joanna, I have to give them their money back. The only way I can do it is to play again and lose everything. So it's really funny. So he basically is saying, all right, guys, double or nothing. And one of the guys says, sounds risky, Dick. And Dick goes, we're gambling.
I love when he starts dealing the cards. And the guys are like, have you been to Las Vegas, Dick?
Oh my God. So then Dick ends up he's like $38,000 ahead. And one of the guys, and if you rewatch it, it's very obvious. Like one of the guys goes, have mercy, Dick. One of the guys at the table covers his face, and you can see him, he's laughing.
Oh my
gosh. And he absolutely broke character.
It was good.
So funny. Those guys were all really funny.
They were all great.
And completely believable.
Oh my gosh, completely
There's a
believable.
really funny episode we didn't watch that I watched with Carl. And it's, Dick, everyone likes Dick, like kind of instantly. And they want Dick to run for town representative.
Uh-huh.
Did you see this episode?
I don't remember that one, though.
So it's season 1, and he's like, oh God. So of course Dick is like taking it seriously. Yeah. And he's like, oh Dick, it's a big deal, and da-da-da. So he's like, the committee all has to approve you, and da-da-da-da. So he's like really taking it seriously, getting very polished, and really diving into like the Vermont politics and all this kind of stuff, and fighting for things. And so he's running on this big platform, and he goes to the hall, and they take a vote, and he gets it. He's sworn in. And he's like, oh my God. And he's like, all right, so now, and it's the end of the episode, he's like, all right, now, to all of our town committee members, please rise. Every single person. There's like 50 town representatives. Like everyone in the room is a town representative.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's not a big deal after all. But those guys are part of that as well.
Oh, nice.
And they bring those guys back for the last episode as well.
Yeah, they were really good.
So just really nice casting. It felt very believable.
Yeah, and they were cute and fun. They would just, and then I loved when he finally loses, because the whole thing is they keep playing poker. He keeps winning money, and because they're so bad at everything, he's like, fine, we'll just do high card wins.
Yep.
Double or nothing. And he keeps winning, keeps winning, and then the kid, the reactions are so funny, like you had said, so
Have
funny.
Mercy.
Have mercy.
I'm gonna have to mortgage my house.
And they're like trying to figure out all the money, and they owe like $32,000 and all this. It's not fun. And then he finally loses. Dick finally loses, and he's like, thank God.
Yeah.
And then they're like, so you owe us $32,000. They're just so cute, and like, they kind of reminded me of, so I don't know if you remember this, but remember Marvin on Alice? He was
kind of. Yeah.
He's just a cute, innocent, kind of fun guy. I will say in this episode, and it's my last note, at one point with Kirk and George, they're, talking about his clothing, and Kirk says, any fool knows that shirt goes with brown cords. And then George says, then you must be the fool. And I thought it was really cute that George was standing up for himself in this episode.
Yeah.
Whereas I think other, they kind of razzing each other and things like that. But I think, he could have really been one note, like just dumb George. And he wasn't. He had a little bit of smarts to him. So I liked it. Do you have any other notes for that episode?
I don't, not for that one.
Okay, so we're moving on to season 2.
Episode
3. This is the first episode that we watched with Julia Duffy.
Yes.
She had already been introduced.
Yeah. Animal Attractions is the name.
Yes, Animal Attractions.
My very first note, I have to say, the quality is terrible on Prime. Like, it was like joltingly bad quality. That's very weird.
So this was actually a little bit better for me.
Interesting.
Because the lighting was different and it actually looked a little better. It wasn't great, but it was definitely much better.
My first note, Kirk says, people are garbage.
So Kirk and Julia did overlap. Okay.
Yeah.
That answers my question. I forgot if they did.
Yeah. But it's not, but, oh God. And Peter, but is Peter Scolari in it?
Peter is not.
Yet.
He's not in until season 4. He might have been introduced in 3 though.
Yeah. So, this one is, I like this one because of the couple that are trying to get out sneak out without paying.
So cute. Like a funny little
so Stephanie's
stupid funny thing.
Well, she's like, so last night I just woke up to get a little Perrier and lime with some crushed ice. It's like,
and everyone laughs.
Yeah, and then she's like, and she's like, oh my God, they really did try to get out with Joanna. They really did try to get out without paying. And she's like, yes, and they would have gotten away with it too if I could stand the taste of tap water.
She's funny from the get-go.
The only thing...
I do like her. Go ahead.
She's not as funny as I remembered. And, like, she's not as sassy. I remember her being, like, sassy and really, like, just always saying something super smart and sharp and funny.
I wonder if it's later in the episodes.
Maybe, but...
Right? Because we only did season 4, and then it skips to 8. Right?
That's true, yeah. And then she's, like, probably. And then, someone's talking about a pet, and she's like, a swan? Yeah, that's funny.
Very funny. You started to say about Kirk's line. He said, just proves what I always say. Yeah. People are garbage. And that was a running joke throughout, and I loved it.
Yeah. Scruffy cost $300, and we're going to find him. I didn't appreciate that at all. Adopt, don't shop. So then, is this where... This is the one where Stephanie's ex-fiance visits, and he's an older man.
Yes.
And she's like, you took me to places I'd never been before. Singapore, Madagascar, bookstores. Yeah. Oh my God.
Very funny. I thought it was funny that they were cat-shaming Dick. Because they're all talking about how it was great growing up with a dog and how great dogs are. And then Dick's like, I didn't have a dog.
Yeah.
I had a cat. So then they're like basically cat shaming him throughout the entire episode. And then Stephanie with Carl, this is her ex-husband.
Yeah.
If I know Carl, he wants to know why I walked out on him.
And then George takes the dog and names him Lucky.
So cute.
And he says to Stephanie, well, if you're ever lonely, you can always come up to my room and get Lucky.
But she didn't know he named it.
No, she did not.
So that was really
very,
cute.
very funny.
And then Kirk, again, great character. Mm-hmm. He sees Carl, and he's the only one that's like, you're Carl? How old are you? Because this guy is like an older gentleman, much older gentleman. Yeah. And everyone is obviously noticing this, but no one says it. Kirk is the one that walks in and says it. I love it.
Like I said, refreshing.
Very refreshing. So I said Kirk is very funny.
He is. Believe it or not, I have no other notes for that episode.
I have a couple more notes, but she says, you've taught me so much, except what epiphany means. And then the people, the Putnams checking out was really funny. So then we move on to episode 17, Kirk ties one on. You talked about this a little bit earlier.
Yeah. The same priest as episode 2, season 1.
Oh, nice. I love that.
I love when they do that.
Love that consistency.
Fun fact, did he look familiar to you, besides being in the other episode?
No.
He played Mary Tyler Moore's dad on her show.
No way.
And in real life, he is Bob Newhart's father-in-law.
Shut up.
Nope.
So fun. I love these little things.
I wrote this note, and I forgot what it means, Christina. To the bride and groom. And I wrote, they hug.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know either. Larry, Darryl, and Darryl show up, and George says, are you here for the wedding or the septic tank? Who's getting married, George? The bride and groom.
Stephanie, always a bride, never a bridesmaid. Oh, and then Kirk tips the priest.
Oh my God.
That was really funny.
How about when Larry, Darryl, and Darryl, it's like they have this like disgusting, scary burlap bag with them. He's like,
oh my God,
what's in there? And he goes, just something that'll guarantee male children. So, spoiler alert, Kirk faints at least 3 times.
He is
so... I can't believe the show even did it. And I mean, it's just... And it's funny every fucking time.
He is a great faller.
Yep.
I wrote that. He is a great
actor.
Great faller. And he's a great comedic actor. And he's great physical comedy.
Yep.
Thank you. Physical comedy. So, the bride... I did a little research on the bride because I thought she was excellent. I thought her reactions were very real. She seemed like she wasn't over the top. She had like some real dialogue, real emotion, real, all of it.
Yeah.
Her name is Rebecca York.
Okay.
And I'm like, I wonder if she did anything else. Did you do any research on this?
No.
She did not do any more acting. She did very little acting. But she is an award-winning author.
Oh, wow.
She is a New York Times best-selling author.
What did she write?
She wrote over 90 romantic and suspense novels. They were mostly like romantic
God.
novels.
Good for her.
Crazy, right? Really cool. But I thought she was a really good actor, so I was kind of
I thought she fit right in. She was very, very easy.
She was very good.
Very easygoing. It made perfect sense why Kirk liked her. They did the Dick Doc joke again.
Yes, they did.
In this one, just like in the golf episode.
I wonder how often they did that in the series.
I did laugh out loud when they ended up wheeling him out on the stretcher
funny.
in case he fainted again.
It was good. I love that they did it 3 times, too. I think other shows might have done it just twice.
The priest's name is Bill Quinn, by the way. I ended up writing his name down. Yeah, Mary Tyler Moore's dad on the show, and then in real life, Bob Newhart's father-in-law. Very funny.
But it was good. It was good. Basically, he keeps fainting at the altar, and they have to keep redoing it.
I did think one of the things I liked with this, and I was like, why did I like this as a kid? I was like so young. But I think it feels so familial. Mm-hmm. Like it feels like it's the same characters over and over.
Yes.
And it's the same set over and over. And there's something really nice about that.
Yes, I agree. Here's a little bit of dialogue. Would anyone like coffee? Stephanie. I would. Joanna. Why don't you make coffee for all of us? Stephanie. Oh, I see. It was a trick.
The audience loved Stephanie.
I thought she was great.
Yeah.
I remembered her as what she was, but I understand what you're saying. Like, she probably was a bit more sassy, especially when she starts dating Michael.
Yes.
Who's Peter Scolari.
She definitely controlled that relationship.
Yes. Yeah. Are you here for the bride or the groom? We're here for the weekend.
That's all my notes. And then
then Kirk had another funny line when she was saying, why don't we just get married at town hall?
Right.
And he says, on those marble floors? Are you crazy? The 3rd wedding, best turnout yet. But yeah, I said Kirk is a great fainter. His name is Stephen Campman.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I did note, only the girl gets the wedding ring, which I think was a trend for a long time.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. I didn't even catch that.
Just in reality, I think it was a trend for a long time.
Now we take a big jump. According to the fans.
Skipping over season 3 entirely.
Season 4, episode 9, Right to Privacy, WRITE, Right to Privacy.
Yes.
So at the end of season 2, Dick becomes the host of a local TV show, Vermont Today. Michael, played by Peter Scolari, is one of his producers. I have to be really honest, not a favorite of mine. for this rewatch. And I wrote down, it was one funny thing where I was like, she's looking, so Michael has a shrine of Stephanie, all these pictures. And she's like, where's the picture of me in blue? It's my 9th favorite.
Yes. I wasn't a huge fan of this either. And I'll tell you what kind of why I was a little bit disappointed. I wished we had seen other episodes with Peter Scolari in it. Like, I wished, and I know we don't want to revisit 10, 12 episodes. We can't. We just literally do not have the time in reality or even on this podcast. But I wished we had seen more episodes with Peter Scolari because I remember him as being really, really funny and great. And I don't think this episode was a great introduction for him in terms of me. Yeah. So I think that overall was like, ugh.
But the audience loves him.
Yeah, well, and I think that he was well established by this episode.
And when he giggles, the audience laughs.
When they giggle together, it was one of my favorite moments. I don't think it was this episode. Maybe
no,
I think it was another episode when they giggled together. And I'm like, they are so damn cute together. So I was glad that they got together and all that. But this episode, I just didn't understand why he wasn't more upset that someone's reading his diary. I didn't understand why Joanna read the diary. She's kind of the voice of reason. So the fact that she actually read the diary seemed off character for me. Yeah.
It also seemed like off brand that he would even write those things.
Right.
It just seems like weird.
It just didn't, it seemed a little bit off for all of them, I think.
And I did write, I said the writing, and I mentioned this earlier, at this point the writing feels slower. There's more downtime between jokes, and some of the jokes take 3 to 4 lines of dialogue to land. And that was not the case with the first 2 seasons at all.
Right. I really do wonder if we had seen an episode, even one episode in season 3, it would have been a little less jarring. There's 22 episodes in between, or 20, well, actually, this is episode 9 even. So almost 30 episodes between what the last one we saw and then this one. And then there's no Kirk, which was very noticeable. Mm-hmm. So maybe it was our choice of episodes that maybe made us feel a little bit off, but even just the character seemed weird and different, and for it to be a new character to us, Michael, all centered around him, like we don't even know him enough. Why? There's a lot of questions, like why isn't he mad? Why is he writing these things? Why is he so quick to forgive?
And it's funny that who we haven't mentioned is Dick. In this episode and in the next one, he's not in it a whole lot.
No, he's not.
And I wonder why they pulled back on his character a bit. But I don't want to interrupt you, but do you have any other notes for this episode?
Let's see. This I laughed. I have a new entry for my board. Find a reason to live. Because Stephanie had broken up with him. And he had this board of, what were the 2 columns? It was, one column was...
like short-term goals,
short-term goals, and long-term goals.
Yeah.
And the long-term goals were like...
bring down NBC.
Right? And then meet some famous
Frank
person.
Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra. Yeah. The next entry for his board was find a reason to live.
Yeah. I'm also going to say something that maybe this lost me a bit because it also didn't take place in the bed and breakfast.
Right. Now we're at Michael's. This new character to us. Yeah. His apartment.
Yep. We're out of our element.
Yeah, I do think that that's a big part of it. So anyway, disappointing episode for me as well.
Next one is season 4, episode 22, Baby, I'm Your Handyman. This is about George's obsession with an actress that comes to town.
Yes.
I loved it.
I really liked it too. It was funny because I'm watching this actress. I didn't write down her name anywhere. But did she look... all right, probably not, but I'm a big fan of Days of Our Lives, and I was watching it, and for a while I was like, is that Susan Seaforth Hayes?
Oh, that's funny.
Because certain angles looked like her when she was very young. Yeah. And I almost looked it up, but then I was like, no, it's not her. It's not her. No, it's not. Is it? No, it's not her.
She was giving me, and I know it wasn't her, she was giving me Leslie Ann Warren
Sure,
vibes.
Absolutely.
But she commanded... She was completely... She was instantly convincing as this diva.
Yes. Did it say if she was ever on any of the episodes? Because she ends up dating George at the end.
And they kept in touch. Through pen pal, being a pen pal.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But Joanna was fun. Actually, a little funny in this one because she was not trusting. She's like, that hussy. She uses men. She burns through men. She cuts through men like a chafer through wheat. Like, it's such a random reference. But I was like, thank God they gave her something funny to say.
Thank God.
I did laugh out loud when Dick called Loretta, the actress, a trash compactor of love. But again, it's funny because like he says these horrific things, but he says them in non-horrific ways. Yes. And I thought it was just so good. And I was just, just rooting for George. I was so glad he got to like, just be himself and get some enjoyment and like be a leading man in his own life.
Well, and I also liked that he listened to Joanna and Dick, mostly it was Dick that gave him because Joanna, so that was, Joanna's like, tell him, like, poor Dick.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
But I liked that he trusted their judgment, and he was just like, okay, you're right, I'm gonna, and he actually did end it with her. Yeah. So that part I liked, because I think in another sitcom or something that he would have still continued. No, she's fine, she's fine. And then showing a little bit of like humanity from her to be like, no, he's so different. I liked him.
Yeah, like I was like happy to have him there.
But him standing up for himself, and he's such a good character. He's so like, I really feel like they could have made him one note, but they made him so much more well-rounded. Yeah. In just his personality in general. I really liked him.
He was one of those characters that like he could have been like a country bumpkin, like Woody from Cheers or Rose Nyland, right? Yeah. But he's not. He's not only is he like what you see is what you get, but he's also views the world that way. Yes. And he's not a harmful person. Like
he's a nice guy, but
super nice guy.
He is capable of standing up for himself.
Absolutely. I thought it was beautiful when he gets that letter from her. And it's all about, it's like dirty talk. And he's like, oh, she's in Richmond, Virginia. Oh. And he's reading it out loud. And he's like, I'll never forget the time we... I won't read that out loud. And he keeps going. He's like, and I think about you when I... Oh, well, I'm not going to read that out loud. And then he's like, reading, skimming. He's like, she's in Richmond, Virginia. That's all you're getting out of that letter. So funny, but I was so happy for him.
I was too. I was really too.
And it still felt true to his character. Sometimes in sitcoms they do that where they give the character this whole other side, and it's like, oh God, I don't want to feel sad for this character. Right. But it all felt true. It all felt real for him.
Yeah. I said, poor Dick, always Joanna's idea, but Dick has to do all the dirty work. But yeah, I did like the episode. I thought she was great. And then even Stephanie and Michael, this is when they were giggling together. They were very, very cute together. Without being center stage. They were just cute together.
That's all my notes for that one.
That's all my notes for that one, too. Which
brings us to the last episode called The Last Episode.
Newhart.
Last Newhart, sorry.
So what's interesting about this, so listeners, we went a little rogue. Yeah. So Brian and I, when we were looking at these episodes... we realized that the last Newhart was always in the fan favorites. Yeah. But we had a little bit of a conundrum. Neither one of us had seen the last episode.
That's right.
However, we felt it was very important for us to revisit this, per se, because it was such a vital part of this series. Yeah. So we had not seen this episode. Neither one of us. But we decided to watch it anyway. So there's our disclaimer. Brian, what did you think of the last Newhart?
So my first note is way too many Fiddler on the Roof jokes.
So many.
Oh no, it was kind of disappointing until, and I don't want to jump too far, but it fast forwards 5 years later.
Yes.
So basically, the gist is Mr. Tagadachi,
who was played by.
Thank you, Getty. First name is Getty, but he plays Long Duck Dong.
Long Duck Dong.
In 16 Candles.
I had never seen him in anything else. I don't know if you had.
Nope.
But I recognized him immediately. The second I think it's maybe his voice or something about him. I recognized him immediately.
I did not.
No way.
I did not at all. You know I recognized immediately?
Who?
Lisa Kudrow.
Oh my gosh! What the? Right? I couldn't believe it.
She plays one of Darryl's girlfriends.
Crazy. Yeah. crazy. So anyway,
yes.
so
Mr. Tayagachi.
Oh, by the way, we did just revisit
16 Candles.
16 Candles a couple months ago, right?
Well, a few weeks ago, yeah. Well, it was our Valentine's Day episode, yeah. So, a few weeks ago. But his plan, basically, is he's in love with the town. He's in love with it. And he wants to buy the entire thing. He's going to give everyone $1 million for their homes.
Yep.
$1 million each. And he's going to make the whole thing a golf course. I thought that was great. And, So
everybody says yes, except for Dick and Joanna, because they still want their... Yeah. They're like, no, we like this town.
That's right. And Joanna goes full on in, and weirdly enough, this has just totally skimmed by any racist sensitivity measure.
Oh my gosh,
she is wearing a
terrible
full kimono.
She's a geisha.
Geisha girl. Yeah. And her hair is a wig, black wig. And that's a running joke. Because everyone's like, how'd you get your hair like this? She's like, it's a wig. She's like, of course it's a wig.
Really?
Really? Yeah. And then someone tells Joanna to lay off the sake. It was probably Dick.
Yes.
And she's just going all in on the Japanese culture.
Yes. Alleged culture.
Right. And exactly. Thank you. Yeah. And then we meet the Tayadachi versions of Stephanie and George.
Yeah, so it's all these Asian versions of everybody. Yeah. The handyman, Stephanie, all of them have these Asian counterparts.
Yeah. I did laugh, although it's so fucking sick, is when they tell the handyman that they're going to sell after all or something.
I believe so, yeah.
And that they don't need him anymore. He grabs a giant screwdriver out of his belt and is going to kill himself. By the way, the audience wasn't into that. The audience did not laugh.
No, they really weren't.
And believe it or not, I hate to say that, I don't have too many notes. I mean, I will say I just liked it a lot better the 5 years later, and then when he woke up from the...
Well, I liked it because he woke up from the dream.
The dream.
So... It was all complete chaos.
It was a bit ridiculous.
So, and everybody shows up, right? So you're not sure what's happening, but everybody leaves, first of all. They sell their houses, and then 5 years later, you see what happens, and then everybody sort of shows up. So you see Michael and Stephanie have a daughter that's just like Stephanie, and then George shows up, and all these people show up. Darryl and Larry and Darryl. And their wives, Lisa Kudrow, like you say, and then the big funny, Darryl speaks, because these three women are all from New York, Long Island, blah, 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 blah. They just won't stop talking. Yeah. And then the two Darryls scream, "Be quiet!" And everyone's like shocked that they spoke. So it's like this complete chaos upon chaos upon chaos. I think watching this episode for the first time, if I hadn't known the reveal at the end, I would have been like, what the hell is going on?
It's unraveling.
It is complete craziness. But knowing that it was a dream, that made it feel like, okay,
long dream.
That was okay to me, because dreams are chaotic. Crazy things happen. Unnatural things happen. So for me, it was forgivable because I knew it was a dream. Yeah. If I did not know it was a dream, I would have been so annoyed by this whole episode.
Well, I love when he said, I was married to a beautiful blonde. I was like, thank you for acknowledging how gorgeous Mary Frann is. Right? And that she might be a little out of your league, Dick.
So, yes. And then what I loved is him getting hit in the head, obviously, with the ball, and waking up. It is the same exact set as the Bob Newhart show. Now, I had said before.
Yeah, I have never seen it.
I was a huge fan. And it was so good. And then I didn't care about the lighting. The lighting was super dark, right? It always was. The bedroom was exactly the same. And then for her to wake up, I really wish I had seen it for the first time, because I feel like I missed something knowing that was going to happen. But seeing Suzanne Pleshette, she was so fantastic as Emily, his wife. She just has the same damn attitude, same drollness about her. And then having him explain, he's like, there was this maid who was an heiress, and then these three woodsmen, but only one talked. Explaining the whole series as a weird dream, it made perfect sense that it was a weird dream.
Yes.
And then the Japanese, Japanese,
God, that's
and
right,
she's like, all right, no more Japanese food before you go to bed. Yeah. It was so good. And then that topped it off is the Bob Newhart theme at the end.
I know.
It was
so
fucking
smart.
awesome. It was so good.
And so I did a little digging. That was under such wraps because it was such a big thing to do.
Oh my God, it was huge.
And they leaked a fake script where he dies.
Oh my God.
From getting hit in the head with a golf ball. But they were going to make it really
gosh.
funny, blah, 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 blah. But that was they leaked the script to throw people completely off the...
So the people who were acting didn't know it either. Is that correct? The cast?
Well, that I don't know.
So I wonder. Yeah, I guess the cast probably went through with the fake ending because it was really just Bob in that last scene.
And Suzanne
Pleshette, obviously.
Yeah. Who never came out to do much acting after, right? To my knowledge.
No, she didn't do much at all, no.
I was trying to think if she was in... I get her confused. This is awful. I do get her confused a little bit sometimes with Stephanie Kramer from Hunter.
Interesting.
Remember the show Hunter? They look similar. But anyway, all that to say...
but it was great.
The ending, the last 10 minutes were great. I can't say the first 10 minutes. I was a little like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I was annoyed by the episode. But let me ask you this.
Yeah.
At the very end of your episode, did they have like the curtain call?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was really nice because I would have felt as a fan of Newhart, right? Watching Newhart and having it end with the Bob Newhart show.
I'm like,
I would have felt a lot
cheated.
Yes, if you didn't have those last people come out because you're basically saying they didn't exist.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So for having them come out and have like the curtain call and all that was really nice to see at the end.
Yeah. And Mary Tyler Moore did that as well on the last episode.
Yes.
I did find that was actually one thing where I was like, they're really going for it here. Because there were a few things where they did the group hug. And then they kept hugging. That, to be fair to the show, that it did end before the Golden Girls. But there's that same thing where they kept hugging and kept hugging.
Well, they had a very similar ending, too, with Mary Tyler Moore.
Right.
And they didn't want to stop hugging.
Yeah. All right, the huge question, more, less, or about the same?
I am going to say a little less. I think if we had seen different episodes, like more of the different episodes, I didn't really embrace Michael like I wanted to. I didn't embrace Stephanie as much as I used to like her. I liked it less as the season went on. I liked him earlier better. And I think it was because there was more Bob. And I really liked Kirk. It was sad to see him go. I missed him.
It's less for me as well. And to be honest, not even a little. But here's what I'm going to say. I really think I'm going to go back and watch seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Maybe even season 3. I think the chemistry between the cast felt more immediate. Mm-hmm. And I liked watching them trying to run this bed and breakfast. He didn't need, why did he have to become a TV host?
Right.
That's really pushing it. Why did they get rid of Kirk? All these things, like, I don't know. And it's funny, though, because when I remembered it before I rewatched it, I was like, oh my God, the first couple of seasons are going to be so boring because Julia Duffy's not in them.
Right.
Because I loved her so much. But I was like, I think they kind of had it right.
They did have it right, I think, too.
Yeah.
How about this? How about Bob continued to run the bed and breakfast and Joanna got a job and that would have given her a little bit more to do. Just
more to do and she started off as a funny character and then they just ripped it all away from her.
Hopefully if you continue to watch it, hopefully you'll see more of her.
I'm going to go back and watch season 1.
Because it could have been, maybe she was funny in season 4 and 5 and we didn't even see any of 5, 6, or 7.
I went back to watch, there's an episode from the last season where her aunt comes to visit and I was like, oh, who's her aunt going to be? Because at that point it was a hugely popular show. Oh,
sure, yeah.
It was, I'm like, wow, that's interesting casting because it makes no sense. The bounty lady, Angie Walker.
Dickinson?
No, Walker. Nancy Walker, the redhead.
Oh my God.
And she's 3 feet tall, Italian, she has that Italian thing.
Weird.
She played Sophia's sister on The Golden Girls.
She
played Rhoda's mother. Thank you, exactly. So it's just that MTM family though.
Yeah.
But it didn't make sense. It was her Aunt Louise. And I'm like, oh, they had no chemistry. And again, Joanna didn't get a funny friggin' line. So this was on for 8 seasons. Again, it started October 25th, 1982. It ended May 21st, 1990. I believe I graduated that week from high school.
Oh my gosh, so funny.
184 episodes. And it got 25 Emmy nominations.
Wow.
How many did it win?
What was the years?
25.
I don't think I would say
90.
none.
None.
Because I think that was a very strong year for sitcoms.
Yeah. So it won 0.
Wow.
Julia Duffy got nominated every season she was in. Tom Poston got nominated a bunch. Bob Newhart got nominated in the earlier seasons. I don't believe so much at the end.
He didn't have much to do in the last, yeah.
Exterior shots, if anyone wants to visit, the Waybury Inn, Middlebury, Vermont. We should go do an on location.
That would be so fun.
Episode.
Oh my God.
We should have gone there for this episode.
Right? Oh my God. In one of the rooms, right?
And I have a match game.
I also have a match game.
All right. Well, Christina, we didn't watch season 3.
No, we didn't.
Which is probably a shame because someone that worked at the Stratford Inn was Dumb Dora.
Dumb Dora. That
and
girl
Dumb
gets
Dora,
around.
And Dumb Dora was so dumb.
How dumb was she?
Thank you for asking. Well, she thought bed and breakfast meant that every morning meal came with a blank. She thought a bed and breakfast meant that every morning meal came with a blank.
Ding.
Wow, that was fast. Ding.
That came right to me.
All right. At a bed and breakfast, Dumb Dora thought that meant every morning meal came with a blank.
A pillow.
Yes, pillow! It's either pillow or blanket in my mind. Yay!
That's fantastic. Could have been a sleeping pill, too.
Also awesome.
That would have been a good one.
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
Or like an air mattress.
Oh, yeah. All right. So Bob Newhart is actually coming out with a new series.
Oh, my gosh.
We had the Bob Newhart show.
Newhart.
He had Newhart.
Yeah.
But now this one, now that he's getting up there in age,
okay,
it's going to be set in a blank.
Hey, you know what I thought you were going to say?
What?
It's not going to be called blank. And like old heart.
Oh, my God. That would have been good.
I'm going to guess easy on this.
Yeah. Okay, Bob Newhart, he's coming out with a new series. Now that he's getting up there in his age, it's going to be set in a...
And I would watch it.
Sorry.
And I would watch it. A nursing home.
A nursing home.
I think that would be hilarious.
I would watch him in anything. What's really funny about Bob Newhart is I am actually watching Desperate Housewives for the first time.
Oh my gosh.
I never watched it before. I saw it come up somewhere and I was like, I never saw that show.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to start watching it just to see what it's all about. And it's actually pretty good, obviously.
Yep.
Was around for like 8 seasons or something. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm on the first season or the second season. I think the first season still. Bob Newhart's in it. In the first season anyway.
Yeah. I really loved...
Just a few episodes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to give anything away. I really love Desperate Housewives. But I'll tell you, season 2... is considered the worst. It's a very dark storyline, which I won't give anything away. It's the mystery of the season. But there's some dark stuff in Desperate Housewives.
Yeah.
In later seasons, too. Like, there's...
I know a little bit, so I feel like I've seen...
There's like a public shooting. Oh, there's a natural disaster that
Fine,
hits the
I won't
town.
watch it anymore.
No, you have to watch it.
Forget it.
I guess the point is, though, is like the characters are kind of campy, but the shit that happens in the town is kind of tragic sometimes. It's like, you can't believe they're putting these characters through these things, but I did like.
But after 8 seasons, like, you have to get creative.
Do stuff, yeah.
But yeah, so it was funny because I was in the middle of watching Newhart.
That's so funny.
And then I started, watched a couple of these episodes, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God.
But I'm going to take your advice. I will, on our friendship, I will start watching the Bob Newhart show.
I think you should.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying...
I might start watching it, too.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah.
Well, folks, that was New York. So again, I saw it on Prime, but you supported your local library.
I rented it from the library.
Yeah.
And I almost want you to rent it to see if the lighting situation.
I'm telling you, season 2 on Prime was rough.
Rent seasons 1 and season 2 from the library. Look at the quality; it's really bad. Or I can just
season 1 on Prime was great.
So then, and then see how season 2 is on the discs.
Cool,
interesting. And that was it. The Newhart show.
Oh no, just Newhart.
Oh right, just Newhart. Newhart.
And that's it for us, and for this episode of Old Roommates.
Thank you for listening. Please remember to follow us on Instagram or YouTube, where we have our episodes as well as a little extra.
And if you have any questions about our show, any suggestions for movies we could revisit, reach out to us at oldroommatespod@gmail.com.
Thanks again for listening.
This is Brian.
And this is Christina. Until next time.